The Ramones versus Sex Pistols, a punk rock rivalry revisited. In the wild, untamed world of punk rock, few rivalries stand the test of time like the Ramones and the Sex Pistols. Both bands, rebels of their own kind, carved out their legacies in vastly different ways, shaping the landscape of music and culture. Their paths never crossed directly, but in spirit they were competitors, symbols of the two poles of punk. The debate still rages today. Who truly defined punk rock? Let's delve into their legacies, where each shines in its own chaotic, exhilarating light. The Ramoneless architects of punk. The Ramones were born in the gritty streets of New York, clad in black leather jackets and armed with the simplest, most powerful weapon in music: 3 chords. Their songs were stripped down, raw and fast, cutting through the pretense of rock and roll like a switchblade. With their rapid-fire songs, each no longer than 2 minutes, they laid the blueprint for punk's entire sound. It wasn't just music. It was a revolution, a rebellion against excess and artifice. But the Ramones were more than just their sound. Over decades of relentless touring and recording, they built a massive body of work that would outlast even themselves. They were machines of punk, churning out album after album, each with its own heartbeat. From their self-titled debut in 1976 to Adios Amigos in 1995, the Ramones evolved without ever losing the raw energy that made them iconic. As the years went by, their influence seeped into every crevice of rock culture. Bands that would go on to achieve mainstream success, like Green Day and The Offspring, cited the Ramones as their primary inspiration. Their reach wasn't just musical. Comic books, movies, fashion all bore traces of the Ramones' DNA. They became a symbol, not just of punk, but of a lifestyle, one that anyone could tap into if they had the attitude and the guts. Their story was one of perseverance. Despite never achieving massive commercial success in their time, the Ramones kept pushing forward, driven by their DIY ethos. Yet within the band there was always tension, unresolved conflicts, personal struggles, and unspoken words. The magic of their music was born in that fire, in the friction that drove them to play show after show, without compromise. The Sex Pistols, the explosive flame of anarchy. Across the Atlantic, the Sex Pistols emerged in the late 70s, but unlike the steady, enduring Ramones, they were a bomb that exploded and quickly burned out. Their rise was meteoric, their impact immediate. From the moment they tore into the UK scene with Anarchy in the UK, they became more than a band. They were the face of rebellion, the voice of disaffected youth. The Pistols didn't just want to change music, they wanted to tear down society. Their anger was palpable in every song, every performance, every sneer from Johnny Rotten. With Malcolm McLaren pulling the strings, they became punk's ultimate provocation. Their short-lived career, just 1 studio album, Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, was packed with controversy, from cursing on live TV to inciting riots with their very presence. Where the Ramones worked steadily, crafting their art over years, the Sex Pistols thrived on chaos. Their public personas became as important as their music. Their songs were rallying cries, not just against the music establishment, but the entire political system. To listen to the Sex Pistols was to take a stand, to say, enough. Their sound was raw, but their message was sharper, more politically charged than any of their contemporaries. Their flame burned out fast, but it left an indelible mark on punk, especially in the UK, where their influence on bands like The Clash and Susie and the Banshees became unmistakable. The Pistols weren't about longevity. They were about impact. Their chaos, their unpredictability, their wild energy couldn't sustain itself. But it didn't need to. In just a few short years, they had set off a cultural bomb that would resonate for generations. 2 paths to immortality. If the Ramones were the architects, building a legacy brick by brick over decades, the Sex Pistols were the wrecking ball, smashing through walls and leaving debris in their wake. The Ramones gave punk its structure, its essence. They were about endurance, about continuing to play and create, no matter what obstacles stood in their way. The Sex Pistols, on the other hand, gave punk its spirit, the rebellion, the chaos, the visceral rage that punk is often remembered for. In the end, both bands immortalized themselves through their own distinct contributions. The Ramones were the steady, unrelenting force that laid the foundation for everything that came after. while the Sex Pistols embodied the anarchic energy that gave punk its bite. The debate between the two is eternal, but the truth is they were both necessary to punk's evolution, shaping it in their image, one built to last, the other destined to explode. And punk rock, as a whole, wouldn't have been the same without either of them.